You're listening to Stimulus Tech Talk, a conversation-based podcast created by Stimulus Technologies that covers a range of topics related to business and technology.
Welcome to Stimulus Tech Talk. I am Sherry Lipp, the marketing manager at Stimulus Technologies, and I am here with our CEO, Nathan Whittacre. And we are going to be talking about holiday scams and playing another game of Where is Nathan?
I am in your neck of I guess your original neck of the woods, up in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, okay.
I help sometimes put on these workshops for CEO peer groups, and had the great opportunity to meet with 4 groups this week to talk about cybersecurity and technology, AI, implementations. Always fun to be part of groups and learning about how they run their businesses and different demands that they have on technology and how to best implement them. So it's just a wide variety of different industries. So it's been fun.
Oh, okay. Hopefully you're enjoying a little rain, but not having to be in the Seattle traffic.
I've had both. So it's rained nonstop more or less since I've been here. And there's 2 of the seminars have been in Seattle near downtown, and I was up in Everett earlier today. So, and one in Bellevue.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
just kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Well, any Seattle Lights listening will know the pain of all those. But all right, so
I am excited as an aviation buff. I plan to go to the Boeing Museum later tonight after I'm done working. So they're open later on Thursday. So I'm very excited to go down there and check out some old planes.
oh yeah, that is nice. All right. Well, this episode should be airing around holiday time, so we are going to talk about a little bit more about holidays. Last episode we talked about what to do when you're out, but this is more, and this could apply to business and probably personal, but the rise in holiday scams during this time of year. So, do we see that a lot, Nathan?
Yeah, certainly do. So I think there's 2 things you have to be on the lookout. One, as employees are taking time off, especially executives, we've talked a bit about, uh, you know, being out of office and what happens with that. So we see a lot of scams that come around when people set out of office messages or are away. Go get me gift card type scams that come in, and you need to prepare your team for seeing those. And then personally, I think we see a lot of scams of, convincing you to buy things that aren't real, websites that pop up that are, produce credit card fraud, bad links. If things seem too good of a deal, they probably are too good. And all these scams kind of center around one thing: is really creating a distraction. They know that you're distracted, but they're trying to create a sense of urgency to take advantage of you in that moment of distraction. So what you see is, like I said, those gift card scams. That your employees are probably thinking that they need to please their boss and do something quickly. Those fraud emails or text messages you get in are really just playing on that, creating a sense of urgency that you have to do something quick. And so it just happens more because we're more distracted in the holidays.
And I imagine those we can't deliver your package scams are probably rampant during the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, SMS scams are really up, and I've seen a lot of it that comes through. You get a text or an email saying, check out your package, and get some shipping notifications that aren't real. I'll share. We did actually a phishing training scheme, and I actually fell for one. Not an actual phishing, but I was expecting a package, and just so happened that I got a fake phishing email from my security team, and I was expecting a package, and I clicked on the tracking information, and I got caught. So It's easy to catch people because the hackers are gonna target you with things that you might be expecting to receive during this time of year, shipping notifications, maybe coupons or deals or things like that. Um, Potentially for your employees, maybe getting some messages from HR about updating benefit information that has to be done by a certain period of time. So, there's definitely a lot of communication that happens that's legitimate at the end of the year, and hackers are going to try to fit something in there that looks legitimate. And will convince you to do something you wouldn't normally do because you're just distracted or trying to multitask too much.
Yes, definitely. I answered a unknown number thing because I was expecting a call, and they're like, "Is this Sherry?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they hung up, and I was like, "Oh no!" I just
Dang it.
I just verified that this number works. So they're attacking on all fronts.
Yeah, I was actually just reading an article the other day about that their hackers unfortunately are trying to get you to say yes or yeah or something like that on a call because they want to use that audio to log in to banking websites or some of the other websites. So they're trying to get you to say as you yes so that they can use that it for fraud also. So unfortunately, they caught you and they said the exact same thing. And how do you prevent that? It's really difficult. So hackers are certainly out and about a lot right now.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, well, what do you do? So, and in my case, we had already had a fraud alert from something else, so I have all my credit frozen, so that you can't take out loans or anything. What do you do when you're like, I was kind of panicked. I was like, what are they gonna do with that little yes, But how common is it? And most places probably want more than just that for
They
verification.
do, and you need to make sure on your banking websites or banking logins that you have, multi-factor authentication turned on so that, they need more than just, verbal confirmation or your, date of birth and social security number to log in. That they have to send a code to your phone, and banks have really gotten a lot better at this. But, if you're dealing with, like, a multinational bank, your Chase, your Bank of America, your Citibank, these large banking institutions, by default they have those on. But if you're, working with a small credit union or local bank, you may have to manually turn some of these protections on, both for your business and your personal account. So, this would be a good time of year to log into, especially banking websites, to ensure that you have your multi-factor authentication turned on, you have your contact number set up in there correctly. One of the things that you see hackers do is if they can get into your account, they're going to change the contact information to go to them. So it'd be a good opportunity before we get into the holidays just to make sure all that information is correct. If you have a business account, verify that the users that are in that account are still valid and they work for you. So if you have, a county manager or controller or CFO that might have access to your banking information, make sure that their contact information is correct too, and the multi-factor authentication is turned on all their accounts. So it's a good time of year just to go double check all that information, make sure it's valid and current. And I think for personal side, you mentioned the credit monitoring. I think that's an essential component too, especially if you're an executive of an organization. I have credit monitoring turned on. You can lock and unlock credit as you need. But we unfortunately as business owners have our credit checked often if you're dealing with banks for any reason, and you just want to make sure that as you're sharing information with other banks that you have your credit monitored so that something else doesn't sneak in there. So good time to just double check on that, and it's a easy insurance policy. $5-10 a month is certainly worth it to have to make sure that you don't have that fraud happening on your personal accounts.
Yeah, and so in addition to like the packages, which probably everybody's gotten that scam, or buying gift cards on the business side, what other types of emails might we see during the holidays?
I think the one that we're seeing a lot of is direct deposit changes. That's the one that we, um, especially during the holidays or end of year, you know, usually HR departments are reaching out to their employees to verify addresses and other information for W-2s that are going to be coming out in January. And so maybe your HR department is expecting, direct deposit or address change requests or things like that. The hackers know that and are putting requests in to HR departments to change that direct deposit information. So ensure that you have another method to verify those changes other than through an email channel. The other thing that we've seen an uptick in is if an employee's personal email or even business email, depending on what they're logging into your electronic HR system, is they may log in and change the employee's direct deposit information in an electronic system if that's the way that you have it set up. So we recommend any HR system or any system that has personal identifiable information of your employees. A really good time to make sure that multi-factor authentication logins are enforced, and so that you can prevent that type of attack that's happening. So again, kind of going back to the same thing, we're busy. If you're getting inside your companies, if you're getting a lot of these requests already, hackers are going to know that that's happening, and they're going to try to slip something in. And your HR department or finance department might be distracted by the number of requests that they're getting, and will just do something out of the ordinary. I think kind of along the same lines too is 1099 information. So a lot of businesses are getting those 1099 requests or just updating the W-9s from vendors, and maybe changing ACH information too. So kind of along the same lines as direct deposit, vendor ACH requests also happen. Don't trust just an email that comes in requesting an ACH change for a vendor. Make sure that you have another method to call that vendor and talk to the person that you generally talk with in their accounts payable to ensure that that request change is valid. It wasn't that long ago, one of our vendors sent an email to us from an email address of the person inside the organization with a vendor ACH change request. And that person's email address was hacked, and they sent out requesting us to change direct deposit information or ACH information. And if I emailed my main contact there and called. Actually, I called him up and said, "Hey, I don't think this is valid. I'm assuming this is probably not a valid change." And sure enough, their email account was hacked, and they were sending out these requests to change ACH information. So make sure your accounting team has their spidey senses on and detecting those, and not just being overwhelmed with all these requests and doing something that could be damaging to one of your employees or one of your vendors.
Yeah, so it's not just you watching your own stuff. You were actually kind of sharpened to see somebody else's had been hacked.
Yeah, yeah, because I wasn't expecting that, and I'm going to verify that type of change every time. I'm not going to take an email at face value. I'm going to use the standard contact information I have for that company. I'm going to call them on that contact information. I'm not going to email them back because a hacker might have, um, you know, filtered any responses to that email out to a different mailbox. And so the actual people that are making the decisions and making the requests aren't seeing any responses that come back. I'm going to call the person that I would normally talk to inside that business and say, do you really want me to make this change? And in that case, they didn't. That was something that a hacker had put out. So, and what if we would have made that change and then paid them money, and then months down the road they would have said, "Hey, why didn't you pay this invoice?" And we said, "Well, we did. We have here's the payment information." Well, sure enough, months ago I paid a hacker rather than my vendor, and that puts us in a tough position with vendors. So that's a scam that's happening quite a bit. And again, your accounting department's probably getting W-9s, other change requests, and if they're just moving along too fast, they're going to make a mistake and potentially um, do something that they shouldn't do with an account for a vendor or an employee or something like that.
So, how might a scammer or hacker target you differently than they might target me? What kind of differences in between just the lower level employees and the executives?
Well, we already talked about one of them, the impersonation scheme. So, if I'm out of office and I have an out of office message, they're going to use that to contact some of the employees and ask them to do something, as if I was requesting it. Maybe the gift card scam is what we talked about, or suddenly paying a vendor that's an emergency. So they're going to impersonate me to um, ask other employees to do something that I may generally ask them to do. So that's definitely one way that I would be targeted differently, especially being out of office. Um, other impersonations schemes is just when thinking about an owner, just representing a vendor that's different, or communicating as if there's a business to business relationship to be built there that's not necessarily there. But often hackers are really targeting lower level employees that want to do a good job. Um, and they're going to ask you to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So the target, I don't know, Sherry, as a marketing manager, other than going out and buying gift cards, or maybe, trying to get your identity to log into some of our maybe social media sites, or, different content information to publish different information from the company standpoint. They're going to just get you to do something you wouldn't normally do, with, you know, going out and buying gift cards. So the thing that we have to worry about for the owner is impersonation, and for the employees is falling for those impersonation attacks.
Yeah, and definitely I've gotten a couple where they, something about a payment. So I'm like, I wouldn't get this email. So I think it's kind of thinking it through a little bit. And but speaking of, travel, and then we've talked about this many times, but maybe as a reminder, do you see people using personal devices more during the holidays? Logging into their work stuff on a personal device?
Yeah, we do see it more. If you have a personal laptop and a business laptop, you're not going to want to take both of them on your Europe vacation for the winter, for the holidays. So, um, a lot of people will take one device, and then there's, certainly the issue of logging into hotel Wi-Fi or airport Wi-Fi, and we've had a few podcasts recently on that, on remote work. But personal devices, bring in a lot of issues, and especially if you have multiple people working on that same device and then using it to log into corporate infrastructure. So if you're just taking along your personal laptop and you want to do work wherever you're at, on your personal device, uh, we would recommend setting up a uh, virtual desktop environment, something like Windows Virtual Desktop, that you would remote into and do your work in that virtual environment rather than directly on that personal laptop. And that creates a level of separation between your work device and that virtual environment that keeps you a lot more secure. So I don't recommend using personal laptops or personal devices for business use. Having your email on your personal phone, if it is a owner or business, if that's part of your job, that's probably okay, as long as your systems have security protections, identity theft protections in them. But laptops and those type of PC computing devices can bring in a lot of vulnerabilities into a system if you're doing work on them generally.
And what would you advise as business owners right now to start sharing with their team for training for this?
For mobile work, or for just the holidays in
Oh, just
general?
for for holiday, looking out for holiday scams.
Oh, okay. Well, for prepping for holidays is go buy a good white elephant gift, get those ideas started
There you
now.
go.
Um, but, things that you should be looking for is take some time to slow down. just remind your employees that, even though you're stressed out, there's a lot of work to do. You might be getting ready to go on vacation. The hackers are going to take advantage of that urgency, that distraction. And if it's a request that seems a little out of place or could cause some harm, just slow down and take a moment to verify that information with your normal point of contact. So again, back to uh, that direct deposit or ACH change, just go out and verify it. Don't just do the work. If somebody's asking you to do any financial transactions that seem a little out of the ordinary, um, just double check them. More likely than not, if your boss is on a European holiday, they may not be asking you to change ACH information and pay a vendor. It's just out of the ordinary. So just take the moment to verify it, or more likely than not, it can wait till your boss gets back.
And if you fall for, especially if your boss, let's say your boss is away and you're working for a small business and you fall for one of these scams, what should an employee do?
Um, Other than maybe start looking for another job, I don't know. No, probably not. No, they should report it immediately. A lot of companies now have some type of security team, or if you're using a third party um, for security management, report it immediately. I wouldn't wait, because some of these scams can be stopped. Um, so report it. Don't be afraid. I mean, these things happen, and trying to cover it up or trying to solve it yourself can cause more harm than the original mistake. So report it quickly, and get your security team and your IT team on it, and hopefully with a little bit of quick diligence, it can be corrected quickly without any harm happening.
All right. Well, this was, to keep people safe during kind of a hectic time of year. But I think your overall advice is always just to slow down and take a look at things.
Yeah, because that's, the hackers are, taking that vulnerability even more that we have today in the holidays. But that's what they're after, is they're just, that distraction that we have and trying to move too fast, and they will take advantage of it. So just slow down, look through things, verify the source and information, and then uh, it'll it'll prevent most of the scams that the hackers have.
All right. Well, thanks, Nathan. And thanks, everybody, for listening. And we want you all to stay safe out there.